Fellow Mountaineers, old grads, and young lads and lasses, you made it to another edition of the Trust the Beard podcast. I'm your host, The Beard. A beautiful day in the Mountain State today. This is Thursday, October 23rd, 2025. And today we are going to break down the TCU Horned Frogs as they visit the West Virginia Mountaineers in Morgantown, Saturday, 6 o'clock. Coal rush, blackout. Should be a fun time. We'll look at the numbers. We'll see if West Virginia has a chance to finally get their first Big 12 victory and their first win since September 13th against Pitt. Don't hold your breath, but let's go check out the numbers. Okay, so we're going to jump right into the offense here. As you can see on the screen, TCU is on the left. West Virginia, as the host, is on the right. This is bad. This is really, truly bad. Kind of ironic that all of our ranking is in purple, considering, that's TCU's color. But we do have two bright spots. Red zone touchdown scoring percentage, 72%. So that's something to look forward to. But as you can see right below that, we actually have to get to the red zone. And so we rank 117th at overall red zone attempts with just 18. You look on the other side of that, TCU is at 32, which is ranked 24th. So they get to the red zone a lot. And then if you look at their scoring percentage, it's pretty equal to ours. It says 71 there, but it's actually like 71.8. And I think ours is like 72.2. So they're, pretty close. So they're scoring at the same rate, which looks good on our part, but again, you look at the attempts and, they've almost doubled our attempts in the red zone. So they are a very, very explosive offense. The one thing that they kind of they're hung up on is their average yards per attempt is only at 4. Other than that, they look pretty solid. As you see at the bottom, the average rank, they are at 36.15 based on these categories, and we are a 105. So basically, you're looking, I did this last week with Central Florida. I kind of put a letter grade to this. So if you look at the collar rank on the right, red is basically an A, orange a B, yellow C, D, F as you go. So you're really looking at TCU at a B plus at 36.15 and WVU with an F. So that is kind of how I'm going to grade these offenses based on this. I'll have to look back and see, but I'm pretty sure this is the highest ranking we have faced in an offense this year. But let me click back through here. See, Utah was a 40.8. Kansas was a 66. And Pitt at the time, Pitt was higher at 32.5. But I will say since that time, I kind of adjusted the formula a little bit. I've added a few more categories, like points per play, touchdowns per game, and then adding the red zone scoring and attempts. So that may look different, but at the time they were playing really good. Obviously, we were able to take advantage of our ability to get pressure, put Holstein on his back and things like that. So hopefully we can do that again this time to slow down that offense. But if you're looking at overall rank, Pitt was a little higher at what did I say, 32. Right now TCU is 36.15. So certainly the best Big 12 offensive grade that we have faced this year. And so there's not a whole lot I can say about this. I expect our offense to be just as, the word putrid comes to mind, and I hate to put it that way, but when you look at these grades, and these are all significant categories, right? Your points per play, that's how efficient your scoring is. You look at TCU, every play they run is worth about half a point. That's why they're ranked 19th. It's really good. We are less than a quarter of a point, so we're 128th, right? Your offensive touchdowns per game, just how many points do you generate on offense? So this kind of isolates your scoring to see how good your offense is, right? It doesn't take into account defensive touchdowns, fumble recoveries, whatever, safeties, whatever else. This is simply how you score on offense. And they do it really, really well, and we do it really, really poorly. Your red zone scoring and your red zone attempts, that's a huge number that you look at it. And again, this is just how many touchdowns you score, not field goals. So, I mean, that is a bright spot for our offense. Once we get in there, we score. It's just we don't get there often. And so your yards per play, your rush, your pass, that shows how explosive your offense is. As you can see, we are all purple. We are not explosive. You see that in the games. It's hard to generate yards. It's hard to generate points. When we do score, most of the time it has come in the fourth quarter of garbage time. And then another stat is your opposing sacks per game and sack percentage, right? How many times you are allowing your quarterback to get sacked. TCU's okay. Again, we're terrible. 2.8. And that just shows with the line. And that's even with a mobile quarterback who I thought in Wilkins, which, most likely won't be playing on Saturday. It will be Scotty Fox and maybe Max Brown, who knows. But even with the little bit that Wilkins showed against BYU, I thought they would take another step. And he would take off running and just had nowhere to go. There's no holes to run through. So even with a mobile quarterback, we're giving up a lot of sacks. So, opposing sack percentage, how often they take down our QB per drop, 10% of our plays are sacks. That's bad. And then obviously third and fourth down conversions per game and rate. And again, I'll point out the kind of fool's gold with this per game. We're getting 1.3 fourth down conversions. That's 39th, right? That's about a B. You're a second tier. But again, our conversion rate is only 42. So that means we're finding ourselves in fourth down a lot. We are not converting on third down when we should. And so I'll wrap this up. I mean, there's not much more I can say. We are a pitiful offense. We can't generate anything, and TCU does it really well. So when we hit the next segment, we'll look at defense, and we'll try to see if West Virginia can at least slow them down. And then we'll have my final thoughts and the final score prediction coming back. All right, gang, let's flip over here to the defense. Again, TCU is on the left, West Virginia on the right. And I'll tell you what, our defense, I said this last week and probably the last 2 or 3 weeks, our defense has taken a huge step backwards. And if you look at the rankings here and the color coding, it's starting to look like the offense. We're starting to look just as bad. The one bright spot again is the red zone scoring percentage, what we allow our opponents to score, and then the third down conversion percentage. Now, again, with the red zone, just like last week, it is kind of fool's gold. So when our opponent gets to the red zone, they only score 52% of the time, as it shows here, which is 31st in the country. So really good. But again, at the bottom, we are allowing 29 trips to the red zone by our opponent, 117th. So they're not scoring at a high clip, right, half the time. But when they're getting there 29 times, they have a high volume of scoring. And this is just touchdowns, right? So, they may score field goals on there. So we're allowing the opponent to reach the end zone way, way too much on defense. And then you look over at TCU, their one bright spot, I would say the one, but their highest rank here is the opponent rushing yards per attempt. So they only allow the opponent to rush 3.4 times. That's 18th in the country. That does not bode well for us because we really don't generate a lot of yards on the ground. It is our strong suit, if you could call it that, relative to how the rest of the team performs. But overall in the college football landscape, it's not great. If you look back in the offensive ranking, we only generate 3.6 yards per carry. So right about the same amount as what TCU gives up. So I imagine that Saturday will be much like every other game where we don't get much established and, their defense kind of has their way with us. And it looks like if go back and compare TCU's offense, right? A lot of it was in red, a lot of orange, and their overall ranking was 36.15. And 3 things they do well was their points per play, their offensive touchdowns per game, in their red zone attempts, right? They're top 25 in those three categories. Well, that happens to be three categories that we are one of the worst at. Opponent points per play, giving up offensive touchdowns, and our red zone attempts that we're allowing. We're 112th, 109, and 117th. We give up almost half a point per play. TCU scores almost half a point per play. We allow 4 touchdowns per game to offenses. TCU scores 4.5 touchdowns per game on offense. We allow 29 red zone attempts. They get 32 red zone attempts per game on their offense. So it looks like TCU's offense is going to have their way. Am I surprised? No, because the last, 4 games now, starting with Kansas, then we got Utah at home, BYU, and Central Florida. Their offenses have all had their way. And this might be the most potent one we have, the most potent we've played against. BYU, Kansas has theirs, right? But I think they make too many mistakes, but they can be explosive. Again, Utah and BYU, they're efficient, right? They don't have huge splash plays. They just work the ball down the field and punch it in. TCU will throw it around the yard, and they have big explosive plays. That's what they do well. Their average yards per play is 6.1, and we give up 6.3. They're one of the best. We're one of the worst. So again, it just looks like they're going to have their way. And so you look at the average rank here. Their defense is 63. Our defense is 95.23. So again, you want to rank those based on the color coding. TCU is about a C. Their defense is a C. Ours is a D-. So again, just to recap, and we'll look at this when I do my final thoughts and score prediction. So up to this point, TCU's defense is ranked, we'll say B+ and C. Our offense and defense is ranked F and D-. So based on that, you tell me who's going to win, right? I think it's pretty clear. And so now we will close out this portion because, again, there's not really a lot to talk about. We suck on both sides of the ball, period, end of story. It is what it is. The numbers say it. Our eyeballs tell us that. The TV shows it. We're not good. We're not good from top to bottom. We are not a good team. And I think in my college football rankings, I have us at 118 overall out of 136. So we are a terrible team. And so we'll close this out, and next up will be the BRI predictor, and then I'll give my final thoughts and final score prediction.
We've had a lot of fun this episode. But you know what's not fun? Not subscribing to the Trust the Beard podcast. Don't pull a Darren DeVries and leave me hanging. Do the right thing. Hit that subscribe button. Like this episode. And share it with every couch-burning buddy in Mountaineer Nation. And make sure to follow me on Facebook, X, and Instagram at Earbeard.
Okay, so this is the final segment here. We're going to do the BRI predictor. Look at the stats, compare the teams. I'll give my final thoughts and final score prediction. And so you look, again, here, the predictor at the top. Again, TCU on the left, West Virginia on the right. Their average scoring margin is ranked 37th in the country, so they outpace their opponents per game by 8 points. We lose to our opponents by an average of 18.5 a game. That is 128th. And then, this is hard to go through. It really is. And then you go look at their offense and defense. Obviously, we scored those. Compare that to West Virginia. Then we incorporate turnover margin. West Virginia is pretty decent. Well, TCU is better. They are 20th in the country at a 0.8. So they're almost getting a full turnover more per game than their opponent. We're at 0.3. Still good, right? That's the one bright spot we've seen on defense consistently is that we do force turnovers. Unfortunately, so does our offense. And so that's why, that margin is not higher. Then you look at strength of schedule. We do take the cake on that one. I think we will a lot of the time because when you're that bad, every team you play is so much better than you are. So, of course, you're going to have the hardest schedule. And so ours ranked 16th in the country. TCU's is 44th. Balance that all out. Average it. The average rank for TCU in the upcoming game is 40.03, so roughly about a B plus, and West Virginia is a 77.466, which gives us about a D. I think it's about a D plus. So you're looking overall at TCU a B plus, West Virginia a D plus. So that gives TCU the advantage of 37.43. And if you jump down all the way to the bottom where you see all the opponents we've had this season, that by far is the largest margin between us and any of our opponents. By far, right? The next highest was Utah at 23. Of course, they blew the doors off, did whatever they wanted. TCU at 37.43. It looks like they will probably do the same. ESPN's Football Power Index gives them an 81.7% chance of winning. And obviously Vegas favors TCU by 15.5. Now you look at the over-under, it's 56.5. Do all the math, and Vegas's betting line is roughly the final score they think will probably be TCU 36-20. Or at least that's your betting score. Again, I think that's about accurate, except for Vegas keeps giving us around 20. And we just cannot seem to generate that many points. We did it once against Pitt. I'm not counting Robert Morris because they are FBS. Other than that, we're at 10, 17, or 10, 10, 14, 14, 13, something like that. I mean, we're not getting any more than 2 touchdowns in FBS play. Certainly not in, or did get 24 against BYU. So I take that back. But on average, it's not very good. And so I've said this before about the predictor. Typically, whoever it favors wins. Well, that went out the window last week as it favored West Virginia by 11.6. As you see there, the very bottom box where it has UCF, negative 11.6. That was their margin, so it did favor West Virginia. And they still beat us 45 to 13, the second most points we've given up this season. So maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. So I think the margin of victory, or the margin of these averages, like these average ranks, I will say it tends to be, if West Virginia is not favored, they typically don't win. And so that has been the theme. We'll have to go with this time. I could be wrong, right? We were favored last week and we got blown out. So maybe we still lose, but maybe we're not blown out. Who knows? I think we will be. Again, you break down the letter grade on these averages. TCU overall is a B plus. That's including their strength of schedule, their turnover, their offensive defense, how much they score. They're a B plus team, and we are a D plus team. The only thing that we have going for us, I believe, is that it's at home and it's at night. Maybe the crowd will be rowdy because it is, the coal rush, but I just have a feeling we're not going to get the rowdy atmosphere that we normally would on a Friday night or a Saturday night in Morgantown, given that our lack of performance lately. So with that, I'm kind of bleeding into the final thoughts. And I think, again, I put this out on Twitter. I think it's okay for this team or for fans to basically wrap it up for this season, like call it quits. Now, I don't mean to call it quits as in don't support the team, right? If you can go to the game, right? If you can buy merchandise, tickets, concessions, all that stuff, tailgate, everything, do that. Support the team. But I mean, like, the faith that you have in what this season's going to be, you can go ahead and just let that go, because this season is not going to be. I think I said that on my last show. It's okay to just cut your losses with this season, because it's not. I don't want you to get your expectations up. And here's what I tweeted out. It says the season is essentially over. There's no magic lineup change coming to turn things around. This is a trial phase. We're evaluating who belongs on next year's team. Don't lose faith in Rich Rod or the program, but it's okay to lose faith in this season because better days are ahead. And I went on, I quote tweeted it. And what I'm saying is that, that wasn't a post, or I'm not saying that like out of anger or like, Rodriguez should be doing better. How come he's not making these changes? How come he's not doing this? Because I understand the situation that he was put in, right? You're bringing in 70, 60 some players, whatever it is, and you're trying to establish your culture, right? This isn't a message out of anger, like you need to be PO'd at Rodriguez because we're not performing well. This is acceptance. These are the cards we were dealt, right? And I will say, of all this, that the culture is working because you see a team that fights to the final whistle, even when we're getting blown out. Even what's most likely going to be our fifth straight blowout. They're still playing hard. You can see it. And so that part is working. What we need to do is just get more talent. And I know everyone's been saying that, but it really is that simple. We just need more dudes. We need bigger, stronger, faster horses. That's it. And when you can implement your culture into guys with better talent, then you're going to start to see more results. It's that simple. And so probably from here on out, I will most likely pick West Virginia to lose. Now, if I stumble onto something in the numbers, maybe against Colorado, I think that's probably our next best chance. And that's what scares me, is because Central Florida probably was our best chance to get another win, and we completely got boat raced. And so that leads me to believe that there's not a team on this schedule that we are going to beat. That's just what this season is. Some of us have lived through it before with 3-8, but I think we were a little more further along in the development of the offense and defense. But you had pieces that carried over from the previous regime, right? Guys that have played here before, and you had a better pool of talent, I would say. And so with that, we'll go ahead and do a final score prediction, and then we will close this episode out. Okay, so there's no real science to this final score prediction. Obviously, we give up a lot of points. Our last four games, 45, 38, 48, 41. While we are scoring 10, 14, 24, 13. Again, TCU is a very potent offense, and for some reason, this defense has really slid in the last few weeks since Pitt. And so I'm going to give our defense a little bit of help in the fact that this is at home. And so I'm not going to give TCU as high as a score as they probably are capable of scoring. So I'm going to give them 41. And that should tell you something, that I'm toning it down, but still giving them 41 points. Because they could probably score over 50 if they really, really wanted. And so I'm going to give them 41, and I'm going to give West Virginia 14. Again, I know it's at home. I just don't see anything out of this team. And we're going to be short, all our quarterbacks? I think Scotty Fox is the last man standing, it feels like. They may have to go over to, I don't know where you go and find another one. I pull one off the streets, I guess. But, I mean, it's all on Scotty Fox. And, not to knock the kid, but he hasn't really stepped up to the level that we need him to. And that's okay. I'm not saying that he can't be good. He can't rise to that occasion at some point. But as of right now, he's just not there. And it's not only him, right? It's the stuff, that's the talent, the pieces around him, right? We have a Swiss cheese O-line. We don't have a lot of wide receiver depth. We don't have really any running back depth. We're decimated with injuries. So it's just, again, it's not his fault. He's young. He's inexperienced. We have a very young team, inexperienced, and they're just not playing well together at all. So you mix that all together, and you're probably not going to score a lot of points, as we've seen in just about every game this season. So that's why I'm going to give that final score again, TCU 41, West Virginia 14. I think that's all we get, and I think, again, they could probably score more if they wanted to, TCU, but the fact that it's home at night, and I think eventually by the third or fourth quarter, they probably call the dogs off. And, that's a tough one. It's going to be another tough one to swallow. Another, I don't want to say wasted opportunity, because I understand what coal rush means. You're honoring an industry that this state was built on, in coal mining. And so you want to recognize all those that came before, risked their life, lost their life. There's a lot that West Virginia, the state, it owes to coal. And I understand, again, why we recognize it, why we do that. But you hate to do it in a game that you know you're probably going to get blown out. And it's the same with the 65 throwbacks. You know, what an awesome look. And it's a shame that you got boat raced by Utah. But, you know, this season there's really no good time to wear any of those uniforms because I don't think we'll be favored at all moving forward. So with that, I'm going to close this out. I appreciate you guys listening. One more thing I wanted to plug. I have a new page, a new Twitter page out. It's called Beardology. And so what that is I like to do my rating system. And so I started taking that rating system and applying bets. And the last couple weeks, you know, I do all my picks, and they're all simply based on who has the higher rating in my BRI system, my beard rating index. So if a team is rated 67th and they're going up against the, 72nd ranked team, I am going to pick the 67th team to win, the 67th ranked team to win. That's all I do. I just go off of who I have ranked higher. So I don't look at stats. I don't look at polls and injuries and all that stuff. It's who's ranked higher at the time. And last week I had about a 72.8% hit rate. So out of the 59 games played, I got 43 of them correct. A lot of them align with what the betting odds are. And some of them were a couple upsets. And so I think it's working pretty well. So I decided to apply that and actually place bets. And so if you follow that, it's Beardology, Beardologi. So that's Beardology with an I. I had to get kind of clever because ology with a Y was taken. So, it kind of has a techie vibe to it, I guess. I don't know. But again, it's Beardology on Twitter. My last couple posts, I do have what games I bet on. And this is my first attempt at really betting using this system. So I did get some easy picks. I didn't do anything complicated. And it's all just money line bets, right? It's basically who's going to win the game. I didn't do any spreads or anything like that. So, check it out. I'm 1 for 1 so far. I picked Delaware to win last night. They beat Middle Tennessee State 31-28. Unfortunately, I do have TCU. I placed a 10 game parlay. So I picked 10 of the biggest gaps in ranking out of all, 136, out of all, I think 53 games. I picked 10 for this week 9 that have the biggest gap between the team rankings. Unfortunately, TCU and WVU were there. We are at 118, and I think I have TCU, I want to say like in the 40s or the 50s. I can't remember, but it's a significant gap. And so they're one of the teams I picked. I picked TCU to win. I hate doing that as a Mountaineer fan, but for the sake of the Beardology betting system, I had to go with TCU because that's what the numbers tell me. So again, check that out. I'm excited about it. And, follow me in real time about what bets I place, how well it's doing. And hopefully if I do well enough, you guys can follow it, pick up on it, take my bets and make some money off of it. So that's the hope. We'll have to see how that goes. But again, thank you guys for all your support. I appreciate it. The likes, the shares, the subscriptions to my YouTube page. For all you listeners on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, again, I appreciate you and all the support you give me. But with that said, we'll close this out. Remember, hype fades, stat speaks. Goodbye, God bless, go Ears.